Hello. Today I'm going to be discussing the Fallout 4 weapon and armor meta. I'm going to be discussing a variety of weapons that you can use that will maximize your DPS, or perhaps they will increase your single shot damage for like sneak attack builds, increasing your defense so you can also survive. I will try to describe every single damage modifier and how to improve your combat efficiency. I decided to make this build because I tried out survival mode a while ago, and it's surprising when you're in survival mode because you start out with like 80 health, and almost any enemy that you can come across will one-shot you or two-shot you. It's crazy. So I thought, if it's called survival mode and you're supposed to survive, you need to make your character better at surviving. Now, Fallout 4 differs from the other games in that both damage and your armor and defensive capabilities have almost no upper limit. For example, you can get about 1,000 health for every 100 levels you take. So if you have 10 endurance and you're level 100, you'll get to or approach 1,000 damage or health. And there are armor pieces that can modify your defensive capabilities to give you 75 damage resistance while standing. And you can even increase that to 90 with a corresponding legendary melee weapon. And all of these will have the effect Sentinel on them. So they work by having you stand still, and you can stand still and shoot at enemies and be like a tank, totally fine. If you move, you take more damage. But you can also use VATS with the Ninja or the Blitz perk, and you can just travel instantly to enemies without counting as moving, so you still get the defensive bonus. Furthermore, I will be discussing ballistic weave, and that as a means of increasing your damage resistance, which you can get typically legitimately to about 500. So first, I want to discuss some points of economic benefit in game, because when you're playing legitimately, one of the most helpful things you can have towards the beginning of the game is being able to make money, to buy stim packs, to be able to buy, I guess, ammunition and armor and weapons, and just to get better in general, to keep up. Your first 30 levels will be very much a sudden death match, and you're going to want something like a railway rifle because it's got cheap ammunition when you don't have a lot of money. And compared to other weapons at that rank, it has so much damage compared to like a hunting rifle, for example, that might be common. Now, you can get one by sneaking into a location called Big John's Salvage, and it's got a huge number of super mutants, but if you're careful and you're furtive, you can get through there with no problems. First thing you might want to do after leaving Sanctuary is find your way across Boston and go from Concord area to where you get to the river, and then I believe it's called the St. Charles River. Then you go over and you get to a location called Hangman's Alley, and you're going to want to take out the raiders there. And when you take out the raiders, you'll unlock it as a settlement. This location is very good because it's got prime access to Diamond City even before you've got perks that give you trading options in your own settlements. So you're going to want to have access to it and make use of it. One thing you can do is take the money you can get and buy some concrete shipments, gears, and other resources so you can build water pumps. Here, you can literally just spam the whole entire settlement area with the floor. Anywhere there's dirt, you can tightly spam a bunch of water pumps, and then each, I guess, cycle, they'll produce a significant amount of water that you can sell the surplus of. Now, you'll be running around like this for maybe your first 30 levels if you played the game like I did. And you'll have the railroad rifle, which is really good. But the next thing you might want to do is pick up the unique instigating laser rifle that you can get at the same place, Diamond City, at the Commonwealth Weaponry area. And after that, you might want to branch out. I recommend going to Spectacle Island because it's going to help you with the next part of this economic growth. And what you're going to do is clear out all the enemies there. Then establish a settlement and take all the resources you might have built up or purchased while you're at Hangman's Alley, bring them there, and try to have the trader perk by now, where you can build your own settlement trader. Over the course of things, you gather enough resources to start building generators and water pumps. You might want generators to power, or you might use some DLC, more efficient version, like a nuclear generator. But for the base game, it's pretty reliable to have a number of generators. Then you build the large water purifiers, and you build enough that you can get a surplus of like 2,000 water a day. And consequently, you will have enough water to have as much caps as you need. At this point in the game, you should have enough money that you can have anything you want that you can buy from traders. But there are still some things that you can't get, and one of them significantly is XP. So if you have the Wasteland Workshop DLC, you can get these cages that if you just spend some of the resources that you've been getting, a trivial amount, like a little bit of copper and steel, and some other corresponding resource, you can get any enemy you want trapped in a cage if you power the cage and then you just wait. So I made a design where it takes advantage of the water at Spectacle Island to immobilize gunners, and then the cages will activate, capture them, and then when I pull a lever later, it'll cause all of them to just fall right into this pool where they can't shoot at me. At this point in the game, I probably could be powerful enough that it wouldn't matter if they could shoot at me. But nonetheless, it's a very good way if you can use a glitch with rugs where you put a cage on top of a rug and then you can clip the cage into another to save space and make it more economical. That's a viable strategy. Another thing you could just do is try and place the cages as close together as you can without using any glitches like that. But you may not get as much efficiency even if you build to the height limit. Now, you can do this and go with a cycle of like sleeping and then harvesting, I guess, them. And you get to a point where you can reach about 150 levels or 170 levels this way. And you will have like a overpowered leveling stat that's legit because otherwise what the game would be normally difficult on survival with like 300 health or 500, when you have like 1400 health, it's going to be a different story. Now, further into the game, I did abuse some sorts of glitches, but conceivably the things I accomplished with them could have been done otherwise legitimately. That doesn't necessarily excuse it, but there's another way of getting XP I used where I would take a Syringer rifle and shoot at, say, a gunner or any enemy. When you kill that enemy, it will spawn a bloatfly because of the ammo, and then you use your hotkey to switch right back to the Syringer rifle, and then re-inject that bloat fly. And you could do this in like a chain to keep spawning numerous bloat flies. Consequently, and the most important part of it is that it's a mass efficiency way to get legendary items. For clothing items in particular, like armor, it'll have you cycle through legendary items. And if you want to get a specific armor piece and a specific legendary prefix, you will have it. Because you'll just cycle through them. And there's only so many different types of clothing pieces or armor. They all function the same. So if you get 5 sentinel pieces, doesn't matter what material they are, you will have the 75% damage negation. And then after that, you can use stuff like ballistic weave that you get from the railroad to make your clothing under that armor give you a great quantity of, damage resistance points. As for weapons, it is also a good way to get legendary weapons. I'd say it's the best. Even so, you might have to spend some time at it to get the one you want. But you might want to check and say there's like blistering bloat flies that cap at like level 21. And you can use those to get a minigun because they do have it. Whereas your odds of getting a minigun might be a little bit less with the glowing bloat flies because they have a larger legendary loot table. And unfortunately, with this method, there are no higher tiers of bloat flies. So once you get to wanting like Gatling lasers or Gauss rifles that are legendary, you're going to have to go to a different place. The place I recommend would be a department store in the south of Boston with all these like super mutants. It's kind of like in a rural area, but then you just go there and you save by sleeping in a bed across the street near like a metro subway area. And then you go in there and you'll usually find a legendary super mutant. You kill them and it would take a while because you're on survival mode and you don't have control over the prefix of the legendary weapon. If you get a legendary weapon, you're allotted like different prefixes that it can potentially be. That's only if it doesn't autosave once you go inside the doors of the building. Hasn't determined the weapon until you go inside.